Hi, everybody. How are you doing? This is Lance Tomashiro, and I'm here with Robert Plank, who will be out in just 1 second. But before we get started, one of the reasons why we thought that this specific training, this specific workshop was so important is that when you're getting started online, whether you already have a product, whether you already have a following, whether you're just getting started from the very beginning, there's always this thing of, we all know what we're supposed to do, right? We all know that you need to have evergreen passive income streams. We all know that you got to have a product to sell, that you need to sell them, that there's all these different business models we see. And, we talk to our students all of the time who we start telling them, you need to set up your opt-in page. You need to get your email list. You need to have video sales letters, all of these different things. And they all are like, yep, I need that. I need that. I've heard that I need that. But the problem comes in when you actually try to implement those things, right? And that's where overwhelm or bright, shiny object or whatever those things are that are stopping you from moving forward come into play. And the reason is because you know all of these different pieces that you need to do. You just don't know how they fit together, or even worse, you don't know how to actually implement those things. So when I first was learning webinars, I understood that I had to have a presentation. I didn't know how to put one together that looked good. I knew I had to record the screen. I didn't know how to record the screen. I knew I needed to have a video replay of it. I knew I needed to interact with the crowd. I knew I needed to learn this thing called GoToWebinar, but it just overwhelmed me when I started thinking about all of these things. So what we want to do is show you exactly step by step. So you don't only know the how, but you don't only know the what, but you also know the how. So if you guys are ready, what I'd like you to do is, first of all, get a pencil and paper out. You're going to want to take notes on this. It's going to give you a lot of good meat. Second of all, I want you to find that question box and I want you to type in how, because that's what we want to learn, right? We want to go from knowing things to taking action on things. And if at any time you have some questions, go ahead and fill those in as well. And if you're ready to get started, again, type how in that question box and help me welcome Robert Plank.
Awesome. Thanks for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Lance Tomashiro. I'm excited to dive into, as you said, the how of webinars and how you can get to where you need to go. And it's all about building your business and building a list and getting traffic. So, everyone always talks about building your business or taking on new projects or things like that. But a lot of people aren't taking any new risks. It's all the same old stuff, right? They make a website, maybe they'll make a blog, they'll dabble with it a little bit, and after a few weeks, they'll get frustrated and just close down and say, what was I even doing? Somebody out there told me to have a website. They told me maybe I should do this thing called content marketing or send traffic or build a list or any of these different things. And then people kind of say, well, I did some steps, I set up some stuff, I wasn't really sure quite what I was going to set up, but I got sort of the way there. It was progress, right? And then they delete the whole site, and then the next week they have a new idea, they make a new site, but all the time they're just kind of creating, destroying, and not really getting to the point where they're making money. And it can be fun at first, right? To make these different test sites, make a WordPress site, make a blog, even make some different videos and things like that. But at some point, you're going to want to be cash flow positive in your business, right? At some point, you're going to want to have the proof that your business can sustain itself, that it can grow itself. So that means taking new risks, creating new products, finishing products, so making things like courses or making helpful videos or things like that, and above all, talking to new people. And that means talking with other people in your industry, even though, again, it might be scary or awkward at first. But if you want to get left behind, a guaranteed way to get left behind is to not talk to anyone, to not be in front of anyone, to not sell anything. But if you talk to new people, which means, new customers you might have or new people, peers in your industry, things like that, talking to more people, there's always an upside. And most of us are doing this online business thing, and we kind of forgot about other people. We forgot that we need affiliates, that we need customers, right? That we need different people kind of on our side, allies. So why not create something new, and why not talk to new people who might want it or might want to promote it, and build that list. as soon as you forget or you don't prioritize building the list, your business is going to start to shrink. So I want you to avoid that. So every day, or more or less every day, I want you to think about what new people are coming into your business. How are you building the list? How are you building the list of buyers? Or how are you finding new people that have this existing problem that they still haven't solved yet, but then you yourself will solve? So all the time, me and Lance are looking at new Facebook ads we can run, or sometimes I'll look at different message boards, and sometimes I'll say, well, there's this message board out there, right? There's this forum, there's this discussion area online somewhere, and those types of sites, they always get a ton of traffic, but they're struggling as far as what to offer. So we can think, all right, maybe we'll toss in a banner ad there or something like that. And then as far as traffic, well, this is what everyone starts with, but they don't realize that it needs to actually go somewhere, right? So people always talk about, oh yeah, look at all these Instagram followers, look at all these YouTube views, or look at all these things like that. But then that's great, but what are you doing to monetize those sorts of things? And so if someone ever talks about, content marketing, putting out a lot of blog posts, putting out a lot of guest blog posts, getting traffic back to your site, then they say, well, once people come back to your site, you have to give something away for free. Or if they say, run these things called Google ads, or run these things called Facebook ads, and what do they run them to? They run it to some sort of a freebie. And then people say, well, I don't know what kind of a freebie I need to make. So today we're going to be talking about webinars in all kinds of shapes and sizes. And my favorite thing about webinars, it's a great way if someone's first contact with you, if it's someone's first time hearing from you, what a great first impression for you to make if they're hearing you or they're seeing you present on a webinar, pitching an offer, having something to say, so something to think about. And so what's great about this training today, and with pretty much a lot of the things that you see online, is that you'll watch today's training and you'll get a handful of things out of it. And then you might watch today's training in a couple of months from now, or you join our Webinar Crusher course. We'll put this recording inside the members area, and you might watch it a few weeks or a few months down the line and get something different about it. And so there's this picture right here of an elephant, and different people are blindfolded and different people are feeling different parts of the elephant, and one person saying, oh, well, it's a tree, it's a wall, it's a rope, because they're seeing different things of the elephant at different times. And so I want you to think about that. Is, today you might pick up something that's important about running a webinar in the first place, and then you might go and watch today's training a few weeks from now and get, oh, well, now I need to focus on selling a webinar or running a webinar class. But it all starts with you doing a webinar. So if you want to play it safe, if you want to keep doing the same actions you've been taking, if you want to keep getting the same results you've gotten, then don't run a webinar. Don't even think about running a webinar. But if you want something new, if you want something fresh, if you want different results than you've gotten in the past, then think about doing a webinar, and definitely pay close attention to other people in your industry doing a webinar. Look at what they're doing, what they're saying, what their kind of offers are, and things like that. So that way you can begin to absorb some of these different things. I mean, the way to guarantee failure is to not try at all. And I think that every marketer out there needs to stay relevant. It's really easy to take a break for 6 months with this online business thing. You hop back on and you're like, where did everything go? Things change. Does anyone know about me? No one's really contacting me. Where'd my list go? All these different things. So I honestly think that every marketer out there, no matter what niche you're in, you need a show, you need a series of some kind in order to stay relevant. And when we say a show, it can just be a quick, spend 10 minutes every Monday showing people the latest and greatest things happening with real estate, right? Just do something simple like that, and do something on somewhat of a regular basis. And it doesn't have to be every single day, but at least once or twice a week. That way people know who you are. And if you can get to the point where you're doing it live, even better. I'm talking about Facebook Lives. I'm talking about GoToWebinars, like we're doing right here, live on a webinar. And why is that? For a couple of reasons. First, for some reason, when something is scheduled on the calendar, when it's going to be live, when other people are scheduled or registered for it, then it's almost impossible to put that off. It's almost impossible to ignore it, right? It's like if you had a test in school, you're not going to miss school that day. You're not going to be late to your test that day because you'll miss the test. So by having something live, by having something on the calendar, by having some kind of an ongoing show, this is so important for you because this way you can get that kind of top of mind awareness. Everyone always talks about, well, you should be branded as such and such or as such and such expert. But then I'm like, okay, well, if I search your name or if I'm looking on Facebook for a WordPress expert or a WordPress security expert or a funnel expert or something like that, I don't see any kind of an online presentation from you. Well, then you must not be that big time of a person. And many people don't write down their goals, or if they do, they write down bad goals, or even if they do those things, they don't actually take their goals seriously. They'll say, well, my goal is to have a list of 100,000 people without a plan in between to get them there. Or they say, you know, my plan is to have $50,000 next month without a plan, without saying, okay, well, that $50,000 means I need to sell X number of copies of a $1,000 product. I need to sell 50 copies of a $1,000 product. So based on that, what solution am I offering? What class am I offering? What kind of a website? What kind of a sales letter? What kind of a payment button do I need to set up? But you have those goals and you kind of take a few steps back and slice it up into manageable pieces. And this term here of having good goals is called SMART goals, right? If you have a goal, it needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, results focused, and time bound. So that avoids having these open-ended, vague, not very clear goals that don't really get you anywhere. What me and Lance want for you is to have this thing called an online class, an online course. What we want you to do is to be able to, at any point, if someone says, hey, I see that your course is there, I want to promote you, or can you present something to my audience? I want you to be able to just click a button and register a time and date to present something live and hand someone a link. And then when that date comes up, if like, you know, Friday at 10 a.m. comes up, it's time to start the show. You click the button, you fire it off, you explain some cool stuff, and at the end you present an offer. And maybe that might seem kind of out of reach for you at the moment, but we want to get you there. We want you to get over the regret of not doing it, the jealousy of seeing other people do it, and we want to, most importantly, get you over the fear of doing it, of the doubt, the worry that you're not good enough. And the solution is to jump in with webinars and to keep doing it, and you'll quickly see, once you transition from a spectator sort of mentality to an action taker sort of mentality, you really quickly avoid focusing on the things that don't matter. And so let me explain. A lot of times when people talk about webinars, they ask about, well, what kind of webinar platform are you using lately? Or how long is your webinar? Or what kind of webinar tricks are you using? Or, one time, in the last couple of months, me and Lance ran a live online training like this webinar, but we ran it at 6 o'clock in the evening, or maybe even like 9 p.m. Eastern. We ran it one time, and then more than a few people kind of, like one of our coaching clients asked, and someone emailed me, and I think someone Facebook messaged me, and all these people were suddenly curious, whoa, why are you guys switching to the evenings? Is there some sort of master plan there? Well, no, there's no master plan. We were just doing something different. We were just doing things where they fit into the schedule. And if you're always looking for like the trick or the getting the little bit of an edge or getting a little bit of a boost, many times that boost you're looking for is something simple, something basic, is like some of the fundamentals. So for example, people say, oh, well, if you're, running webinars, like, if you run a webinar in the evening, can that like double my number of attendees? Well, probably not. Or people say things like, well, what if I run this live online training session, right? I choose a date and time in the future where I'm going to present something live. And what if I say, well, if you register for this live thing, I'll give you this free report or this free video, or I'll give you this freebie. Or if you stay to the end, then I'll give you something as my gift to you for staying at the end. And all these goofy things, right? And a lot of these marketers, they make a living on teaching these tricks, on teaching these gimmicks, and they spend all this time working really hard, when the solution could have just been, hey, how about if you're presenting a webinar on a Wednesday and you emailed about it on Monday? Well, how about on Tuesday and Wednesday, you just send another quick email reminding them? So just a really quick, simple, fundamental thing like that can double or triple the webinar attendance, as opposed to something that's a lot of work, that's silly, like giving away a free gift or things like that. So many times the simpler solution is actually the solution that works, and anything else is just kind of noise, as extra work that's unneeded. So keep it simple. Albert Einstein says simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So let's keep that in mind today. So today's idea for you is, what if? All right, I just want you to think about this phrase, what if? Because anytime I'm, stuck in traffic or frustrated, or for example, I'll say, well, what if I wasn't angry about that? What would that look like? Or if you say to yourself, there's no way I can ever sell something for $1,000 or higher. There's no way I could ever present an offer or make a product or send out a few emails to get some affiliates. But what if you could? What if you weren't afraid? What if you ran a couple webinars? And then how easy would it be then to run some webinars after that? What if you were already on track to the business and the lifestyle that you've always wanted? And what if you were no longer confused, you were no longer overwhelmed, you were no longer spread too thin? What if you knew, you personally, I'm talking to you right now, what if you personally knew exactly what to do next? And what if taking new risks, and what if trying new things, what if that was just a part of your business? You're just being curious, being experimental. What if being stuck in your safe place, being stuck in your dark office, being stuck behind the keyboard, what if those were things that didn't hold you back? What if this internet stuff wasn't scary? What if you didn't have all these bad emotions, all this resentment? What if every time you sat down at the computer, you made money? What if every time that you made a new video or sent a new email or placed a new ad or whatever it is that you do during the day, what if building your business was a fun thing again, the way that it used to back in the good old days? Well, it's fun for us, and sometimes it's challenging, sometimes it's a little stressful, but for the most part, I wouldn't be doing anything else. And in our multi-million-dollar business, what me and Lance do is, well, first of all, on Mondays or sometimes throughout the week, we'll meet. Right? We'll say, well, we need to make something, we'll do a little bit on our own, but we'll meet and just get it knocked out. If we need to make some PowerPoints or plan a launch or assemble sales copy, Lance and I will meet in the same way that if you have a team or you're building a team or you want to have a team in the future, you can imagine that if you and your team met and just got a bunch of quick stuff knocked out, how much more productive you'd be. I like doing this thing called a webinar as for a free one to pitch a product at the end. It's so much fun, and you can kind of tell. You see a lot of people out there and they pitch a product, they have an offer, and you can tell they're having fun. And if you can get to the point where you're halfway decent at presenting on a webinar, you'll have fun too, I guarantee it. It's way easier than public speaking, and it's great if you ever feel sort of shy or timid or like you haven't done enough for your online business lately. Do a webinar and you'll break out of all that fun stuff, I guarantee it. And webinars are the way that you can charge more money, right? Because a book isn't worth that much, an audio isn't worth that much, but a class, right? A class that takes a group of students from point A to point B, solves their problems, gives them some templates and tools. Now you're talking, and then you can even walk people up to become your best people, where maybe if they want some extra one-on-one advice on how to flip that real estate, or how to trade in the stock market, or how to run those Facebook Messenger ads, or how to build up that Instagram account, whatever problem you can solve, there are people out there who are willing to pay a bunch of money to meet with you one-on-one. And if you say to yourself, well, I don't want to work that hard, I don't want to trade hours for dollars, or I'm too afraid to meet with someone, well, I guarantee that there is a dollar value that will overcome all that for you, right? If you said, well, I'm afraid of meeting with someone, well, if they were going to pay you $10,000, maybe you wouldn't be so afraid, right? So meetings and a pitch and a class and coaching, what do these top 4 money-making tasks that we have in our business? We meet to get some stuff knocked out. We run a webinar to pitch a product. We use webinars to create a step-by-step class for people. And then we also meet one-on-one for coaching. Can anyone out there tell me what those top 4 money-making tasks have in common? A meeting, a pitch, a class, coaching, right? What do those 4 things all have in common? Well, what they do have in common is they are webinars. And I can guarantee that if I was just sitting there and trying to get some tasks knocked out without a real plan, it would take forever. If I wanted to make a product that had all these videos and things like that, it would take forever. But by being there live, I get it done quickly, I get it done in one take, I get it done the way that a doctor or a lawyer just goes to appointments and just knocks stuff out. And that way, it avoids piling on, it avoids having this ever-growing to-do list. You actually begin to make some progress in your business and making some money, as opposed to just kind of not really getting anywhere, and then the to-do list grows and grows and grows. And so what we want you to do is run these things called webinars to grow your business, to build your list, and to get traffic, to create evergreen income, to create passive income. And it all comes from these handful of money-making tasks, courses, pitches, and coaching calls, and things like that. So I just want to say here that I'm really sorry. All right, I want to give you an apology here, and the apology is to say that I cannot show you how to go from $0 to $100,000 in 24 hours with no list and no product. If you have a product, that's progress. If you have a list, that's progress. But to have just this huge, crazy goal in 24 hours, I'm not going to promise that. And I also can't show you how to flip real estate or trade in the stock market. I know I use those as examples, but those are examples of things that maybe you have a skill like that I don't have, right? Just like we all have skills that other people don't have. And you've seen that there are all kinds of coaches out there who charge a bunch of money just to be able to flick the right switch, so to speak, right? And there's a saying with like contractors and freelancers and people like that if a plumber comes to your house and charges you $400 to tighten one screw on your toilet, well, what are you really paying for? Are you paying $400 for a screw? Well, no, you're paying $1 for the screw, then $399 for the plumber to know exactly where to put that screw, right? And so that's what I want you to think about, is that there are people out there who are willing to pay a lot of money if only they knew where you were and they only knew of your solution. So what I can show you is how to create more passive income than you have now, plus leverage more of your existing income by working smarter but not harder. And what this makes me think of is we have this one coaching client, and when he came to us, I believe it was about 4 years ago, he was barely making 100 grand a year, and then now I think he's making like 2 point something million a year. And he said it was because of us, and I got kind of like a little embarrassed and flushed in the face, and I was like, geez, we're responsible for that, for like 20 timesing your business plus, and him having to hire all these employees and things like that. And I was like, well, okay, well, instead of just you saying I'm so great and things like that, what was it about what we showed you was responsible for 20 times in your income? And he said membership sites and webinars. Membership sites so that way I could handle all the members, but then webinars to present these offers, to make these offers clear, to keep the existing members active and give them some bonus training and things like that. But everyone always makes things too complicated, right? Even Lance was talking about this as he was introducing me earlier. People make things way too complicated, and then they get overwhelmed and they don't know what to do, and then they look back later on and say, geez, like, if only I had started years ago, imagine where I would be today if only I could break through and make things simple. So this coaching client of ours that we have, he runs these different webinars to test out different offers or to get his members to log in and do something. So think about that. Think about how many times that you've finally bought something or you finally taken action on something, and it didn't take much to sort of push you over the edge, right? Maybe you kept seeing some ads for the same thing, or you kept seeing some emails for the same thing, and maybe near the end of a launch, this person got on a live video, or maybe just sent you a quick extra message, but many times it's just that quick extra touch, that quick extra point of contact that makes things simple. So anyway, enough of the negative stuff. I want to give you some positive stuff. I want to share the formula. And never before has one single sentence, if you can even call it a sentence, it's pretty short, and this has changed everything that I do online. And many people, they've seen this sentence and they've thought nothing of it. So, I mean, is it okay if I give you the sentence? If it is, can you go in the question box and type in the word sentence? Because I really want to share this with you. But I want to make sure that you're paying attention when you listen to it, because a lot of people, they've seen this sentence and they really thought nothing of it, even though there are people that get it and people that don't get it. For example, like Ernest and Timothy, they get it, right? So many people, they've heard about this and they kind of discounted it, but the ones that succeed, they make use of what this sentence says on a daily basis. So I really want to share with you what this sentence is. And so basically, here's the thing, is it's only 4 words, so it's even a shorter sentence than maybe you guys thought. So I want to make sure that you're ready, and it's just like Alfie's ready, and Brandon's ready, and the rest of you are ready. So this is the only thing, if you're taking notes, if there was one thing to take notes on in this training, here it is. Are you ready? It's this thing called AIDA. And again, this is like the simplest thing in marketing and copywriting, but whenever I see an offer that falls flat, it's missing these pieces are out of order, and a lot of people, they only think that this AIDA thing applies to, say, like a web page or a sales letter, but it applies to your webinars. It applies to if you're driving in your car, you hear a radio ad or something like that. This applies to if you make a product or any kind of video training. Think in terms of AIDA, and you might have heard of this, and if you have, great, because that's how important it is that it's everywhere. And this stands for attention, interest, desire, action. And then the way that I like to kind of think about this even better is to translate each of these words. So attention, you can think of this as, well, why am I here? What problem brought me here, right? What problem are you about to solve for me? How is that problem solved? And then what if that problem is solved? And so AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action, this means like this is in a sales letter sort of situation. You think of this as the headline, right? I come to a web page, suddenly the headline is what makes me stop before reading anything else. And then in this interest stage, this is where we're talking about maybe a problem that you as, say if you're like teaching someone how to learn a language, you explain, I tried this and this and this, and these things didn't work. So now someone there is relating to your problem, and then you get into this desire phase and you say, so nothing else worked, I made this solution. And here's what's in this solution that overcomes the usual stuff, and then here's the pieces of the offer, and here are the bonuses and things like that, and then the action, well, I now want to say buy this now, right? And so you think about that on like a sales letter, but on any kind of a video training or chapter of a book, or especially on a webinar, we think things of why, what, how to, what if. So we can say, well, why am I here? And maybe you'll have a quick intro, or maybe you'll talk to someone about what even brought, like what kind of things in the past did they try to even get there? Like what are we going to say to sort of wake people up and give them a new way of thinking about things? So why am I here? What brought me here? All right. So we're answering that question. And then how do I solve this problem? And so even though that's sort of chicken scratch there. And so when we do a thing like a webinar here, this is where we do what's called a demo. And a demo could be explaining a system, or walking us through a case study, or showing a piece of software. But just think about this, and if you write nothing else down in today's call, it's this. It's AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action, which translates into why, what, how to, what if. All right? So I say all that kind of stuff because I want you to stop thinking in these old ways. The old ways of thinking are to be sort of jealous about what other people do, and kind of being really, I don't know what's the word, but kind of jaded, kind of like you've seen it, kind of being like, oh, is this shady person going to sell me this shady thing, or this better be good? And how about instead of all that, instead of that negativity, how about the next time you see a web page or you see a webinar or something like that, you think about, well, how does this fit into getting my attention, getting my interest with aligning with the problems I have, building the desire by getting the solution, and then taking that action in the form of why am I here? What are you going to show me today? How do I accomplish that? And then what if I do that? All right. So there are people that run webinars and people who don't run webinars. There are people who are doing great online and who seem to always be figuring out the next big thing, and people who are always struggling. And it seems like everything always gets in their way, right? And nothing really goes great. Well, what's the difference between those people who have a great business and people who don't have a great business? What do all successful businesses have in common? Well, they all have something to sell. They have consistent traffic, and most importantly, they are guiding new customers through the process. Okay, so they do things like, haven't you ever noticed on, for example, if you see an email from a marketer, then they'll say in the email, here's the link, make sure to click on this link right now. So why is there a silly thing in there? Why are we saying, well, we're emailing someone a link? Why are we having to say some text in there to click on the link we're showing them? Because for some silly reason, by having that in there, you get way more clicks. Same thing with a web page, right? You go to a web page and sometimes they'll have at the bottom like a button to click and buy. And just above it, it'll say, hey, make sure that you click that button below to buy. And it's like, what? You're giving me these words saying to click a button that I see. Why is that important? Because for some reason, having that on there, guiding people through the process helps so much, in the same way that if we're on a webinar situation like we're on right now, and I say, well, what I want you to do right now is go to webinarcrusher.com, then that'll just get you right there to the webpage where I want you to go. And even though my web browser's not going there. So even though it seems like a really simple thing to do, that, oh, why do I need to tell someone the action that I want them to take? I'm telling you, if you start doing this, if you start presenting on a webinar, and at the end saying, here's where I want you to go, webinarcrusher.com, and you actually bring up a web browser in front of them, it's a simple tweak, but it makes such a difference. And it's all about AIDA, why, what, how to, what if, and you'll start to see this formula everywhere, which is, why am I here? Why am I watching this? What's the problem? What are you going to show me? What's the high level, big picture overview of the solution, so that once you get into the solution, now those steps you're taking will make sense. I know what we're building towards. And then now that you've solved that easy problem, now what if that problem is solved? Remember that term, what if? Well, now that you've solved someone's quick, small problem, say on a live webinar like this one, now they say, oh yeah, well now you took care of my webinar confidence, or I understood now what I need to do a webinar. Now, the next step is the course that actually shows me videos of what exact actions I need to take, right? So we solve a little problem, or fix a little bit of the uncertainty and doubt, and then move people on to the next phase. So let's think about what brought you here. What brought you here to this webinar right now? You want to know how to make this online business thing easier. You want to know how to run webinars, how to be more of a personality, because think about guys like, say, like Jay Leno or David Letterman, or even like Steve Jobs, or guys like that. Like, there's somewhat of a personality there, right? And some of these people, maybe you've seen or heard of them enough times, like, you know, like Dave Ramsey on the radio, or people like that. Maybe there are people like that who you've heard so many times that you can almost like hear them in your head, or you know almost like what they would think in a certain situation of uncertainty. So we can think about what brought us here is maybe being dissatisfied with things up until this point, knowing that there's a better, easier way, knowing that if we could overcome some of these little confidence issues and these technological issues, maybe we could run webinars. And so this is one of my favorite recent quotes of all time from the astrologist, or astronomer, I don't know what term, astronomer, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says, the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. And I think he was talking about this in terms of like black holes and quasars and stuff, but it really hit me to think about like, oh yeah, well, we all tell ourselves like a story of why we can't do it, right? Or what failures led us to this thing. But I mean, we don't even know what's going on past ourselves, right? We think that the whole universe is conspiring against us to, you know, prevent us from doing this, or maybe if something good happens, we say, oh, I had a bunch of good luck. But I mean, chances are a lot of it's random, and even if it's not, I mean, it would be so just crazy to even think about, well, why is it that this bad things happening to me now? I don't understand the big picture. Well, the good news is you don't have to. Anything that's happened to you up until this point, it's just been a learning process, and what matters right now is what are you going to do, right? What actions are you personally going to take? And if other external factors prevent you from doing that, maybe think about changing out those external factors, right? If you have that friend that tells you can't do it, maybe get rid of that friend. Or if just someone in your life is holding you back from what you want, then maybe it's time to change those relationships, or whatever it is. So Stephen Wright says, experience is something you don't get until just after you need it. And Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. And what I got from this is like, you can only connect the dots backwards. A lot of people say, I'm going to make this product, I'm going to make this app, I'm going to make this website. They plan out their whole entire future, and then none of that works out. So you just spent a lot of time planning out everything when it didn't even work out that way. So what makes a lot more sense to me is to run a webinar, run an offer, sell some stuff, see what my list likes and what my list doesn't like, see what they buy and what they don't buy, and then move from there. Because if I try to connect all the dots in the future, once I get to dot number one, all the remaining dots will all rearrange themselves, so why even bother? So my name's Robert Plank, if you don't know me, and when I first got online, I wasn't making a lot of money for a few reasons. I didn't have a big enough audience, and the audience that I had, they weren't really listening too much to what I had to say. I had all kinds of cool computer geek programming stuff to teach them, but I was just making blog posts. I was just text. I was not a human, and I was missing the mark. I was targeting the wrong pain points, needs, and solutions. I didn't have my finger on the pulse of what people needed, right? People needed a web page, or a web page that was converting, or they had a half-finished product and needed to finish that. They didn't need any crazy advanced stuff. They just needed some help with the simple, basic fundamentals. And today, I want to share with you my biggest and best secrets. And a lot of those secrets aren't anything super crazy. A lot of those secrets are things that someone just told me at just the right time, or they were things that maybe I heard a bunch of times, and then one day it finally clicked, and I said, geez, you've been hearing this thing all the time, like AIDA or WWHW or run your own webinar or things like that. And finally I said, fine, enough. I don't need any more fancy, crazy stuff. I just need to do what I've been being told all along. And I wanted a business that was fun and exciting. I wanted a business where I did what I want to do. Maybe you can relate with that, right? So you want to maybe sleep in or wake up early and have the rest of the day to do whatever. Or maybe you want to have some coaching clients. Maybe you want to teach some cool stuff, right? Maybe you see some of these, maybe in school you had bad teachers that you hated and good teachers that really pushed you and really helped you to get to where you needed to go. And you said, I want to be an online teacher like that. I want to show people how to learn that language or how to race those drones and get some real results. But I didn't want a business that depended on me minute to minute. I didn't want to have to just, clock in 8 hours a day. And if I had an off day, money dried up. Doesn't sound like fun to me. But I did want a business that was made better by me, where I didn't have to show up to it every single day, but when I did, I'd kind of put in my own secret sauce. That way I could charge whatever I wanted, do whatever I wanted. It was like a business that was based around me. And the answer to all that was webinars. And again, people get sort of scared when they hear about these things called webinars. But when we're talking about webinars, we're just talking about you running a live class, right, where you show your screen, you show some PowerPoint stuff, and then people see you live, you answer questions live. Coaching, which is just easier than making a phone call, and then pitches, which is presenting an offer. So what we want to say about webinars is for you to use a platform called GoToWebinar, and if you're here with us live, this is what we're showing to you live. And what's great about this is it opens up on any iPhone or tablet, and then people can't just close a browser tab the way they can with, say, a Facebook Live or a Google Hangout or things like that. It's its own separate thing. You present a live show, that way people show up live, and that way you get that extra energy from the live audience. Like you can ask a question, go look in the question box, see a bunch of cool answers, and then it kind of says like, all right, well, I need to be at the top of my game here because there are real people here that are listening to me. And then record it for some evergreen results. And that means you have a recording of it, you put it on YouTube, you put it on Facebook. Now you have a freebie for that opt-in sequence or that product launch or that funnel or that bonus in your membership site, or even get it transcribed, put it in a Kindle book. So many great opportunities once you become a presenter on a webinar to grow your business list and traffic. So we talk about business growth, trying new things. Guess what? Webinars are those new things you should be trying. You always hear about list building. Well, you know what? Webinars are a great way to build your list because you can have people sign up in exchange for your free training. You can have other affiliates promote for you. You can even reach out to people and say, I just want to present this training to your members or to your list. And then if they want to then sign up for my list, or if they want to buy from me, that's a new traffic source. Those are new people who can come and find me. And anytime that you're thinking about content marketing, running paid ads, whatever, run them to a webinar. And so now that's great, but what do we run people to? Let me give you a couple scenarios. So how about a free and helpful tutorial? So what happened was early on, I created a lot of websites and listed different services like, oh, I can design your site, I can program for you, and no one cared. Can you relate to making a website and you're just kind of like, oh, maybe no one even cares about this, and maybe you even look at the number of clicks and visits to your site and you kind of wonder if like, oh, I got 20 visits to my site. That might have just been my own traffic of me testing and setting up the site. Sort of scary, right? Well, what happened was I was struggling, and somebody who had a bigger email list than me, because my email list at the time was 0, this person had a few thousand subscribers, and he said, I've got these subscribers, I need some content for them. Can you write up a quick tutorial for them about how to do this cool thing? And at the time, it was how to copy and paste some special code on your website to personalize your visitor's name, right? So we just had, for example, our good friend Kevin Weans join the call, and what you could do is you could send people to a special web page like Webinar Crush or something, and have like a question mark F equals Kevin. And then when someone goes to the web page and they see like a big giant headline and something like that, it says like, hey, Kevin, check this out about webinars, or what will Kevin find out today about running webinars, things like that. So that was just one of those things that back in the day, everyone wanted to be able to have that feature. Nowadays, you'd put a plugin in there or something, and nowadays maybe you'd add a countdown timer to a web page. And you'd go and grab a plugin for that, but what plugin? Or how do I install that? Or how do I customize that? What are the gotchas? Or even how to add a pop-up to a web page, right? And it's even better if you target people who already use an existing thing. Like what if you said, let me show you how to add a countdown timer to a Shopify store, right? Or you can say to people, well, if you use MailChimp or Aweber, let me show you how to use those services to add a pop-up to your existing WordPress blog. So now people who are looking for these specific solutions, they find your free and helpful tutorial. So you solve a problem, and we call this an over-the-shoulder webinar. We call this where, like a few minutes ago, I kind of just pulled up let's see, I pulled up my my web browser and things like that, and we just kind of show what's there on our browser and then switch back to the PowerPoint when we're done. So think about what software you know or what tasks seem easy for you and hard for others. What YouTube tutorials suck? Like, do the tutorials about setting up a WordPress site suck, or a Shopify store suck, or WooCommerce plugins, or whatever it is? Aren't there some tutorials out there where, like, when you were looking for the solution, it was really hard to find the answer? And I just think about, like, when I first wanted to make green screen videos, I went on YouTube and I found some video from some little 8-year-old with a super high-pitched voice, but I didn't care because it had the information I was looking for. It had the answer I wanted all along. So think about if you can show how to perform a task, like signing up for a free Wix site or a MailChimp autoresponder or something, and show it live and show it in the span of about 20 minutes. But here's how you make money from that. You say, let me show you how to use WooCommerce. Here's my special affiliate link for these things called WooCommerce, right? Let me show you how to use the Aweber email autoresponder, but in order to do this, you need to sign up. And by the way, here's my link as we're doing this together for you to sign up through my link. Doesn't that sort of make sense that you can just like try out these different things, help people with their problems, get those problems solved, and in order to solve the problem, they have to sign up through your link. And so I thought about at this point to kind of show you some of these people. Have you ever heard of these marketers that make like tons and tons of money, super famous, and they'll post these things called income reports, right? And they'll say like, oh, well, this month I got money from this, and this, and my expenses were this, and this. Have you seen these things, these like income reports? Well, here's what I found interesting, is that like almost all these people that show these income reports that say like, oh, I made 100 grand last month, 200 grand last month, they show the breakdown. They'll say like, oh, well, this money was from this money was from that. Most of these people, a big chunk of their monthly income will be something like 30 grand a month from Bluehost, or they'll say, 30 grand a month from iThemes plugins or things like that. So these people with like huge amounts of passive income, a big chunk of that is just from them showing something for free. But in order to use that free thing, then someone has to sign up under their affiliate link, and then they get their recurring commission. So an interesting way to make money that doesn't always involve just hard pitching one single product. And so I sort of saw this from this guy, Mr. Lance Tomashiro. He's the guy that introduced me a few minutes ago. And I just noticed that like he'd make these really simple web pages, and he'd run these really simple webinars, and he was just like, I'm just a regular dude in an office. I'm not trying to have green screens or fancy lighting or multiple angles. Just I want to show you how to use this Peel ad software with an admin panel. And he'll be like, well, running a webinar, here's how to get it, here's how to sign up for it, here's how to use it. And then every step of the way, he just have like a quick video like this right in front of the camera, just kind of guiding someone through the process. Imagine that. Imagine having a video saying, I want you to sign up for this free software using my affiliate link. Here's how to do it. Once they do it, now they're on a page with a video that says, now that you signed up for that, here's the button to go and get it. Simple idea, but again, the fundamentals. Just guide people through the process of whatever it is you want them to do. If it's buy something, buy a direct product, buy it through your affiliate link, guide people through the process and be proud of it. Because people try to talk other people out of doing the things that are important, or just because they themselves can't do it, they have a need to go and prevent everyone else from doing it, right? A lot of these internet marketers say, don't email once a week, or they say, don't promote the same thing, or they say, if you run a webinar, don't ever sell anything, or they, will dump their whole list into a webinar registration, or they'll try these things called one-click webinars where they'll get way more signups for an upcoming event, but then way less attendees. Or they'll do all these tricks, like they'll run a live webinar event, get a bunch of signups, get people to attend, and then rename it or put the date forward, or all these other just tricks and then they teach these tricks, and these tricks prevent people from running their first webinar because they say, I can't run a webinar unless I do all these crazy things. Just run a dang webinar and get the ball rolling. The ideal business is to just show up for appointments like a lawyer or a doctor would do in just one focused hour. So are you obsessed in a good way about whatever it is that you're doing? Well, then if you are, you can close down Facebook and email and all that just for an hour to present something cool. Product launches don't have to be hard. They don't have to involve 100 of your closest friends and take a year to get the ball rolling and, spend 200 grand on a launch consultant and give a bunch of affiliate commissions away and have a 30% refund rate. I mean, forget all that. Like product launch can just be, hey, here's the product I have. I'm making a few waves here. I'm making some noise by sending some emails, running some ads, running a live webinar, having that recording. Why make it any more complicated than that? And what if webinars were fun? What if getting on the computer and showing some cool stuff, helping some people out, changing some lives, changing some businesses, what if that was a fun thing for you? Well, is making money fun? And again, I guarantee that there is some amount of money where the money will make it fun. And I think a lot of people, if they resent or they dread speaking or making a web page or making a webinar, I could be wrong, and I'm not talking about you personally, but I think that some of these people that are afraid of running webinars, I think the real thing deep down is that they don't deep down believe that the webinar is going to make money, so they already are talking themselves out of it because they don't expect to have any fun. And it's like, well, what if you ignored all that? And what if you jumped in and did your best to have fun anyway? Well, doctors, lawyers, and specialists use appointments to make the best use of their time. And you should too, in a 1-hour free training. You should be in the business of solving problems, and a 20-minute webinar, 20-minute presentation is great to get your feet wet or to solve something quick, but that on its own isn't much time to pick up some speed, to fit in an introduction to explain why the demo is so important, to have the demo itself, and then to have time at the end to buy a product. There's not a lot of time left. So instead of 20 minutes, we do a whole 60-minute appointment scheduled ahead of time, and then you just promote it. People register, you show up live, you teach, they buy an offer. Now, what the heck do you present? Going back to AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action, why, what, how to, what if. Here's what we want you to do, is we want you to schedule this upcoming live training about whatever your niche is, talk for 10 minutes about why they're there and give them what's called a pattern interrupt or a hook or a really good reason to change their thinking or why they're even here today. Then you build their interest with the what, with the 100,000 foot view, like here's sort of the problem, here's sort of the answer, and here are the steps to solving it. And then how to, we show a demo, a magic trick, or like a wow factor to say, well, cool, this is what's possible here with you. And then near the end, we have a 15-minute what if, a pitch, or an irresistible offer. And again, a lot of people are just so afraid of running webinars. It reminds me of that song by Meatloaf, I'll do anything for sales, but I won't do that. So here's my question is, people say, oh, I can't run a webinar because I'm afraid, or I don't think anyone wants to know about my course about drone racing or whatever. Well, if you showed up for 1 hour, presented some cool stuff, and you got $1 million in the bank? Of course, you'd find a way to do that. Okay, well, what if someone said, I'll give you 100 grand or even 10 grand. Just show up for 1 hour, show your stuff. You never have to think about it again, but just show some cool stuff. Teach me some cool things about drone racing. Give me a demo. Give me a product at the end to buy for $1,000, for $500. You'd probably do it for even $100, I guess. But then people say, okay, well, what if I run the webinar and no one shows up? Isn't that just a waste? Well, no, because you have a recording and you can do better and better. But then people say, all right, no one shows up. Okay, well, isn't no one showing up great? Because that way you don't have a reason to be nervous. Or people say, but what if only 5 people show up? Well, which do you want? Do you want to be nervous about people showing up, or do you want an empty webinar? Or then people say, what if there are 50 people? What if there are 500 people and now I'm really screwed because I don't know what to say? Well, which is it? And you can kind of see that if I ask, what if 5,000 people watched your webinar? Now it's like, oh my gosh, that's too much. I'm going to mess up. What if 1% hate me? I'll have 50 people hating me. But do you see how silly it is to kind of play fast and loose with the numbers like this? To like think about, well, I need to make a bunch of money from my webinar, but I don't want too many people showing up, but I don't want it to be empty. And you see how just like playing all this, like just psyching yourself out game just doesn't work very well. Instead, keep it simple. You run your webinar, you set the time and date in the calendar, you promote it with whatever traffic method you have, and then whoever shows up, shows up. I mean, don't take it personally. Don't cancel the webinar. Don't think you're a failure just because you only got 5 or 10 or 100 people to show up to the webinar this time around. Anything is progress, right? If you get one attendee, that's one person who cares enough to show up and stay for an hour. If you got 0 attendees, again, you have that recording, but make sure that you follow through and you do those things that you promise. And then, I mean, you can even see this screenshot is from our webinars from way back in the day, and we just kept it simple. And even though this looks kind of old and outdated, the concepts are still the same, right? I think this even might be the same PowerPoint presentation on this screenshot here. We've just kind of updated it for the modern day. So you have good stuff to say. People want to hear it, but you need to put yourself out there and put it in a format where people will sit up and pay attention. So what if you can make as much money as you want with your own tiny tribe? Or what if anytime you wanted a pay raise, just build your tribe by spending an hour with that new audience, present your cool stuff to someone else's list. And what if you were paid $500, $1,000, $500, 10 grand, 30 grand, even more before you did anything? Well, the answer to this is an online course. But here's the problem is, what is a book worth? If someone says, okay, well, I wrote a book on how to learn Spanish. It's better than anything that's ever come out before. I want to sell it. And then you say, all right, well, if it's a book's worth 99 cents on Kindle. Maybe $1.99, that's about it. And they say, all right, I'll make it a print book. Now it's $10. Audiobook on Audible, maybe that's $15. Put it on Udemy, maybe it's $30. Put it on YouTube, it's free. So with all of this competition, how many sales would you have to make at $5, at $10 to make $100,000? You'd have to make just so many, like tens and tens of thousands of sales, right? So being a commodity or having all this competition drives down your prices, doesn't it? So what do? How do you get away from being a commodity? How do you become unique? Well, the problems you face are you don't even have the focus to complete a course like that, or maybe you have different unfinished products, websites, projects, things like that. Maybe you say, I don't have enough of a web presence. I don't have a bunch of YouTube videos, a bunch of podcast episodes, a bunch of blog posts, or I always hear about build a list or about traffic, but I never really know like what traffic to do because it seems like it's always changing. And then I run out of time during the day and I don't even know if I did the things I was supposed to be doing, and I don't even know if I wasted any time. So the problem with product launches is too much reliance on the cheap tricks of like, we're going to open it or close it, or only 10 people will get this, or they put a timer on the sales letter, or they pile on all this different stuff, or it's just all this work for a huge, huge gamble when instead you could just be building your business. So they told you it was easy to make 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand because they did it in 5 minutes, so to speak. But many times these marketers, they really inflate their numbers and they'll say like, I did this one webinar, it made $2 million. And it's like, yeah, but once you took out all the costs of that, you walked away with a couple $1,000s. Or they'll say things like, well, my one webinar may be $1 million, and you look at it and say, okay, your whole business this year made $1 million, and you happen to run a webinar in that, but the $1 million, the big number you're saying is from like your whole business. So you're taking one activity you took in your business and claiming this huge number that's your entire business. And it's kind of like playing fast and loose with the numbers with marketers. And I wish someone had told me early on that a lot of marketers do that, because I would get very close to giving up. I'd say, why would I even attempt to start if someone else is making $1 million in 1 hour from one webinar, not realizing that, oh yeah, they're making much less, and so my numbers of how I'm doing actually are pretty close and compare pretty well. So don't compare someone else's outsides to your insides. Instead, do better. Instead, find some of these high ticket people that'll pay you money, because think about how much your time is worth. Is it worth $100? Is it worth $1,000? Well, even if you only charged $200 per hour and you only worked part-time 20 hours a week, that's a $16,000 a month. So now that you're realizing, oh yeah, even if I only take a couple $100 for an hour of work, that's still not doing pretty bad. And many people are holding out they want to make a website or have an offer that has like 100 monthly paying members, and they want to make a square peg fit into a round hole. I say any way you can get your business to 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand or more, any way that you can get it there, just get it there. And then after that, figure out what you want to take out, or figure out if you're not happy with the work you have to do to make that money, if that makes sense. So would you meet with someone for an hour a month for $1,000? For $2,000, for $5,000 a month? Probably, but if you have hesitation about that, it might be just because you haven't done it before, right? Or you have that low confidence, so the hesitation is for a different reason than maybe you've been thought in the past. And even if you wanted to have like a coaching program or a membership site, and it was a total failure. You said, I'm going to charge $100 a month for this membership site, and I'll meet with you, once a week, and we'll figure out this learning a language stuff, and it totally flops, and it only gets you 10 paying members. Well, guess what that gets you? Now you have $1,000 a month just from showing up one time and getting all these 10 people in a group coaching call. That is easy money. Anytime that you can show up for an hour somewhere and make even $1,000, I mean, don't poo-poo that. That is easy money that you can repeat over and over again. It's a win because you're only spending 1 hour. So group and one-on-one coaching. So group coaching, what we mean by that is that you can meet with your people once per month. So you say, all right, every second Thursday, we're going to show up. We're going to tackle some of this drum racing stuff. And then you reschedule recurring appointments in your own calendar once a month. And then you just show up and you talk about your last 30 days, your insights, questions, and case studies, and maybe even throw in an extra product or bonuses. And this is the kind of thing that we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years. And in fact, in our Webinar Crusher course right here at the very bottom here, on the bottom, you have 2 options. And you can get just our webinar course right here. But what we really want you to do is get this GoToWebinar and monthly calls option, because we'll meet with you this week at the time that we're broadcasting this, and we have a meeting every month. And what we're going to do is we're going to meet with you, and we're going to show you what's working with webinars, and any question you have, any URL, offer, PowerPoint, video, whatever, we kind of look at it and tell you what we think you can do better with it. So that's group coaching. Really easy, because even if it only makes you a few hundred or a few $1,000s a month, you just show up one time with this group, record it, put it in the members area, keep it simple. And then one-on-one coaching gives buyers a chance to talk with you. And this is a little more involved, and we have this coming up. We have one of these meetings in a couple of hours today, and it's easy money. We just show up once a week. We meet on this thing called GoToWebinar. They pay you a few $1,000s a month, and it includes all your products. So why make things complicated with like trial offers and upsells and downsells? Just sell what you sell and do it with webinars. Because with webinars, you'll have a lot more fun. You'll have all these tries to figure out how to get yourself dialed into your audience. And this is a thing that few people are willing to do for whatever reason. They don't think they have the technology, don't have the confidence, whatever. We want you to run webinars, and we want you to start with a free and helpful tutorial, then move on to a 1 hour free training, than an online course and an evergreen coaching program. And if you're ever stuck about the structure or the content, think back to AIDA or WWHW, attention, interest, desire, action, why, what, how to, what if, a 10-minute why to get their attention, a 15-minute what to give them the overview and get their interest, a 20-minute desire phase to give them the steps, the magic trick, the wow, and then the 15-minute what if pitch, irresistible offer action. And common mistakes are that people launch something last minute, or they chicken out, or they think they have to script their whole webinar. It sounds like an easy way to waste months and months. Just get on there and talk about some stuff. Or maybe they even don't pitch at the end, right? And then they kind of have this thing called cognitive dissonance where they're sort of conflicted on the inside, lack of offer confidence, silly tricks like a Q&A session. That's just too long. So instead, we want you to separate the forest from the trees. What is the difference between a webinar like this one that pitches maybe a $7 product and a webinar like this one that pitches maybe a $10,000 product? $7 versus $9,997. What's the difference? It's a number. It's when you made the button, you typed in a different code. You typed in a 9997 as opposed to a $7. People talk about having these fake webinars or these automatic webinars, and to me that just sounds like a video on a web page. Why not keep it simple? People talk about, well, I'm going to charge $50 for someone to just show up to my webinar. That sounds like a course or a product. Why not just sell the course or the product? People are worried about evening or morning webinars, or should my webinar go for an hour or 5 hours? Those are things that don't matter. What matters is, do you have some good stuff to teach? Do people like it? Do people get something out of it? Do you have an interesting offer at the end? And can you get some butts in seats and follow up and promote that? That's what's more important, is sending more emails or changing up your offer, or changing up your pitch, not how many hours you're talking. People ask about which webinar platform to use, and they want like the free one or the cheap one. It doesn't matter that much. Well, it matters to the extent where we want you to use GoToWebinar, because some of these other platforms, they suck, or they're not reliable, or some of them have some of these hidden fees, or some of these have these really missing features, or whatever reason. Just use the one that everyone else uses. And we've even seen some people present a webinar alternative, so to speak, and they'll present it on a GoToWebinar, and we're like, that's kind of weird. You have some new kind of weird webinar platform, and you're presenting it on a platform that is not your own webinar system. I don't really trust it. And people always geek about like what shopping cart, things like that. What's more important than using exactly the right tool is to follow a proven system to the end. That way you actually get things completed. That way you know personally what works for you and what doesn't. You get yourself out of spectator mode finally. So an evergreen promotion where you create a quick 20-minute freebie in front of an audience. You create a 4-week webinar class to make those big bucks. That way you have something to sell. You create a 1-hour pitch webinar. That way you have something to send ads to, or send your content marketing to, or just a way to get people interested and intrigued about your offer. And then after people watch maybe they'll get started knowing about you from the 20-minute freebie. And then they'll, from that, see your 1-hour pitch, and then join your 4-week class, and then become one of your coaching clients. That's the deal, but you can't get any of that unless you have it in place. So you can use this as a value add for freelance clients, or use for meetings. But depending on, no matter where you're at, maybe you have no product, no list. Maybe you have a product or membership site that maybe even one sale of it would be an improvement. Let's be honest. If you have a web page that's made 0 sales, even making 1 sale from it, even though it might be kind of like make you feel bad, it's a good thing. Any sales greater than 0 is a good thing. And maybe you have some sales, but you need more. And maybe have you heard this, or have you said this, I don't have time to fill up my membership site or make a product, or I'm already putting in the time. Well, we want to solve all these problems for you. If you don't want to have a monthly membership site, if you want to have a coaching client business, but you're kind of having those confidence issues, or you want to make a class or pitch some stuff, but the technology sounds sort of scary, or you want to graduate from 1-cent test sites, or you don't have a product, you don't have content, you have an outdated product, maybe lack of sales, lack of interest, lack of a list, or maybe you don't even know what your list wants. right? I mean, I'm sure that you can relate to some, if not all of these things, maybe completely or maybe to a certain extent. But either way, what's the solution? To sites that you keep deleting and remaking, to not having a product, to being shy, all these different things, the answer is webinars, right? Live classes, coaching, and pitches. It's a solution to penny test sites. You make a 20-minute freebie, a 4-week course, a 1-hour pitch webinar, and then evergreen traffic and coaching. And not all at once, but imagine if you made some progress, you made your first couple webinars, you built a list, you say, all right, now I want to make a course out of that. And you say, all right, now I want to pitch it. And then you can just kind of get smaller results because we've broken down the problem into manageable pieces. Then you go through the steps, get some results there. So if long to-do lists are dangerous because you spend all your time organizing and maybe you spend the rest of the time staying busy with small, unimportant tasks, the solution is if-then. Okay, so you say, all right, well, what do I need to do next, right? I need to make a website. Great. I got a website. Now I need to make a buy button. Great. Well, if I have a webinar pitch, what do I need to do? Send them to the buy button. And then once I have all that in place, then worry about a product or a course. And then that way we just break things down into smaller pieces. And then you put some of these things on your calendar. That way you have deadlines. That way you do them. That way if you have that upcoming webinar coming up, you present it. And if you sell access to a class, and then you have upcoming appointments for that, you show up to those appointments as well. And if you make even a little bit of money, if you make even a few affiliate sales, then isn't that a really good reinforcer? And isn't that really going to make everything else sort of fall away, right? Imagine if you made all these blogs, all these test sites, and then you said, I'm just going to try Robert and Lance's thing. I'm just going to run a webinar, and you make a few affiliate sales. Isn't that suddenly way more important than all the silly blogs and test sites? If you made even a little bit of money, now that becomes the more important thing. And people are always afraid of selling, but what's wrong with selling if you've earned the right? Haven't you seen people on TV like Bob Vila or Tony Horton, the P90X dude, or Carlton Sheets, the real estate dude, or Tony Robbins? Don't you ever see these dudes and they'll sell things and it's like, oh, awesome, like, I like how they sell things, so then what's the problem? What's the disconnect? Is it maybe that if you yourself don't like selling, is it maybe that you think maybe you don't measure up to like a Tony Horton or a Tony Robbins or something like that? Well, it doesn't matter, right? All that matters is that you're doing your best, you're putting yourself out there, you're finishing what you start, and you're making some money. And if you make even a couple sales, you make some money, well then now you're better than all those other people who kind of are critics, who don't actually try, who won't actually make any money. And then who cares how you compare to, say, Bob Vila? And how about this? If you have a button for $500 online and no one buys, well, isn't that still progress? Does that hurt you or does that help you to at least have the button online that someone could click? If you don't have the button online, no one has a chance of clicking, but if you have that in place, that is progress. And no one will tell you the truth about some of these numbers. No one will tell you that when you have a webinar and you send people to a place to register, only half will register. And out of those, only a third of those people who registered will show up. That's just how it works. But then when we measured it, we got over $19 per attendee conversion. So every time we saw someone on a call, we said $19, $19, $19, because we saw, okay, based on this number of people on the call, divided by how many will buy at whatever price point, we have a better idea of, all right, based on how big the webinar is filled up, we have a pretty good idea of how many will sell, how much money we'll make. So then you can start to say, all right, well, what if my traffic sucks, right? What if I just say, I'll send an email to my list and I'll get 25 people to register, and then I'll send to my Facebook page, I'll get 25 more, I'll put it on my Facebook wall, get 25 more, put it on LinkedIn, get 25 more. And are you kind of starting to see that if you can get 100 or more people on a call and you're terrible at selling, you're terrible at an offer, well then how many sales would you make? And if you got 100 of your best people on a call, would you sell them something at $10? Or would you sell something a little higher ticket, like maybe $500? Because again, how many of those little dinky $10 sales would it take to make $1 million? Well, speaking of $10 sales, it used to be tough to break in, right? If you wanted to have a big promotion, you had to be in the club. 5 years ago, or maybe a little more than 5 years ago, it fell apart, and then all these low-ticket people came in, but then now they're a little more organized now, and now everyone can easily create an ebook and set up a download page. And the problem with all that is that a lot of these people are selling low-ticket just garbage. and people basically have to buy it without knowing what it is to see if it's any good. It's almost like a slot machine, right? So here's how you can be better. You just send 1,000 clicks to a pitch webinar from Facebook ads, affiliates, connections, forum posts, whatever. What if 500 registered, then based on our math, 166 show up, and what if you just closed a handful? What if you closed 16 or 32 at $1,000 each or at $500 each? Pretty good use of 1 hour, right? And then you record your webinar with Camtasia Recorder, slap it on a web page, promote it for a few more days, and you're getting paid ahead of time to create a product. So even just one sale, even 10 sales are great, knowing that you'll revisit, you'll reiterate, you'll come back around in the cycle over and over again. And people always cop out when it comes to webinars. They say webinars don't work anymore, there's too much competition, or I can't build a list. None of that is true. All those things are just excuses people tell themselves. You need to just be more interesting. And if you are a little nervous, you have a little bit of the butterflies in your stomach, that's good, because it means you'll show up, you'll be present, you'll have fun, you'll be excited, as opposed to just kind of getting to it whenever. We want you to teach some how-to information, but teach even better than how-to, because your competitors are just sharing tricks and tips, but your customers need how-to, because people think of like, oh, I'll teach how to bake a cake. But how about you expand that and you say, I'll teach party planning, I'll break it up into 4 parts, I'll think about what pain people have, what my solution is, and then I'll pitch it. And I kind of went on the same sort of journey. I thought I was going to teach programmers, I was going to teach programming, and I thought, wait a second, there's a way larger world here where I can teach people how to make a website, how to make a WordPress site, how to use plugins, how to make money from their site. That's way more interesting than teach how to program stuff. And it doesn't matter what your skill level is or what your customer skill level is, whether you're a dabbler, you're a newbie, you're like most marketers, or you're a specialist, you need to get on webinars no matter what your skill level is. If you've been at this for 10, 20 years, well then you're behind, get caught up. If you're just getting started this year, well then hit the ground running, and think about once you've been at this for 2, 3 years, don't you want to be ahead of everyone else who's been at this for 2, 3 years? Well then you need to be on video, not necessarily on camera, but have some kind of a webinar thing like this, at least be on microphone, at least be live, at least be a real person, because people all the time fail at webinars, but not for the reasons you think. First of all, they don't even do webinars. They spend all this time making a book perfect, making a course perfect, making whatever it is perfect, and then they don't really get that much traffic and they give up before giving it a chance. Or they say, you know, I'm so nervous, I'm not a presenter. Well, how much money would it be worth for you to do your best and become somewhat of a presenter, even if you're nervous? Because no one's even going to be able to tell if you're nervous. People are too busy focusing on themselves. If you say, well, technology is too difficult, what if I showed you how to do it? If you say, yeah, you don't know how to do traffic, in this day and age with pay-per-click, with content marketing, it's easier today than ever before. And our students who are in storyboarding, embroidery, carpet cleaning, real estate, all these different areas like mobile apps or playing guitar, they all run webinars, and we've shown them how to run webinars for the very first time, and they've done it over and over again, because guess what? It works, it makes the most money, it's the best marketing bang for your buck, and it takes the least amount of time for the most amount of results. So you can talk about super hot topics. I mean, just think about if you ran a webinar showing some cool Kindle stuff, or WordPress, or done-for-you tasks, or Amazon, or offlining, or LinkedIn, or traffic, or whatever. You do it with webinars. A 20-minute freebie webinar, a 4-week course, 1-hour pitch, evergreen traffic. And so this is what we want to walk you through. Is in our course called Webinar Crusher, we want to share with you, first of all, how to make that 20-minute review product. You talk about what technology is everyone talking about right now. Is it chatbots, retargeting, something like that? Show some cool piece of software, some platform, some service, present it for free, then sell it low ticket. Then what we want you to do is to run a 1-hour pitch webinar with just one person talking. Notice how at the beginning of this call, Lance talked me up, and now it's just me. We're not unmuting anyone else in the audience. I'm looking at your questions, but it's just me just being super focused. So focus on the result and make it sexy. So notice how I'm not really going too much into like the webinar details. I'm talking more about what you can do with a webinar, and I name it something like how to blank, blank, and blank, right? How to grow your list, build your business, make a product. And then now that's what we're showing. We're showing how to do these 3 things. how to write and publish a Kindle book, how to become an instant author, or maybe even become an instant author in just 1 hour and get 1,000 readers in just 1 day. Perfect if you hate writing and or you like money. So you show up, you drop some knowledge, you transition into your pitch, into your offer, you explain that offer, you give the URL, and then you close it up. 1 hour pitch webinar. Attention, interest, desire, action. Why, what, how to, what if. You start off with that pattern interrupt, give them the 100,000 foot view, share the magic trick, and then pitch that irresistible offer. And then, now that you have pitched something, what are you pitching them to? A 4-week webinar class. You walk people from point A, which is where they are now, where they're frustrated, where they don't have what they want, and then point B, which is where they've set some real things up. You break it into 4 milestones to get there. You have a challenge or an assignment for each milestone. You sell it before you make it. You present it live. You record it. You post those recordings. You get it transcribed if you want. You organize the members area if you want, but guess what? You need the product done. You need the pitch done first before you go to organize and make things pretty. Then you pull out pieces for front-end offers if you want, and then in a year from now, create an updated version 2.0. People always talk about recurring income, things like that. How about your recurring income is just update the course this time next year? And then evergreen traffic. So you have 2 choices in front of you. You can become a one-hit wonder, or you can take your show on the road when you feel like it. I'm talking about email to some replays, or send some extra emails, or just pitch something new to your list every month, which you probably aren't doing, because there are huge opportunities out there as far as Facebook groups, Facebook fan pages, Google events, LinkedIn, all these different things. And we run a 1 hour webinar just about every week. And every time we ask about who has never heard of us before, who is on a call with us for the very first time, it's usually over 20% of our list is on a webinar with us for the first time ever. So why wouldn't we keep on doing that to get our list closer and closer to 100% of people have been with us live? Webinars create a quick 20-minute freebie for you for free in front of a live audience. You use it to create a 4-week webinar class for big bucks, create a 1 hour pitch webinar to make sales, create a weekly coaching program. Just show up, do it in an hour, and get back to life. And Facebook, Twitter, and $7 products and all those things that always distract you, those will still be out there while your system is making you money. So stop being such a commodity. Stop being the gas station when you could be the jewelry store. Or stop worrying so much about what price it is, or trying to talk people into your price, or how many pages the book is, or how many minutes of video, or how many times you're emailing. Instead, stand out, be different, and use webinars to become a person that's in your own category. We want to show this to you inside our course, which is called webinarcrusher.com, and we'll put it in the chat box for you here. So we'll go, cool, Lance has already done it. And we want you to avoid all the common mistakes. The mistakes of having a last-minute webinar, chickening out, scripting it, not pitching, having a lack of confidence, or any of these silly tactics. Have you heard of this one? Someone says, run your 1 hour or your 90-minute pitch or whatever, and then take a break and come back and answer a bunch of questions. And it's like, talk about making a long thing even longer. So instead, just keep it simple, keep it to an hour or so. So people stumble through things with trial and error. They do almost no webinars, almost no pitch webinars. They go too long. There's no interesting demo. There's negative social proof. There's lack of a one sheet of the offer all in one place. So without us, in a week from now, will you even do webinars, or will you have a clear plan? I'm not sure. In a month from now, without us, will your product be finished? Will you have something for sale? High ticket? I don't know. In 2 months, will your list be the same size, or will it be bigger? In 3 months, will that list be trained to buy from you again and again high ticket? Or maybe in 6 months, will you be in the same place as you are now? What if in 6 months you had the same, what if in 6 years you had the same everything, same car, same clothes, same house? What if the meal you ate today for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what if that's what you had to eat every day for 6 months? Doesn't sound interesting, right? I'd rather have some new adventures, and I hope you do too. In a year from now, if you just kind of let things slide, if you give yourself permission to stay lazy, in a year from now, I don't think you want to know where you're going to end up. So if you want new results, do different things. things and do them with us. With Webinar Crusher, you'll have a 20-minute review product to use to get opt-ins. And then if you just do one module a week, you go at whatever pace that you want, but maybe next week you can put out this 60-minute pitch webinar for either an affiliate link or a book you have or a product you have or someone else's product or whatever, but now you've made some extra sales from just 1 hour, and then you create a product. You create a 4-week class that's bigger and better and more expensive than most other things out there, and then once that's all done, then you get that recurring traffic for evergreen income, you promote stuff, run some ads, get some coaching clients, and then onwards, I'm hoping that you'll be now on the next stage of your business and your life. So do I have permission to just give you all this up front so that you can go at your own pace, no drip content, no stringing you along, none of this confusing stuff, just I want you to get you there. Let me give you the tools in one place, let me give you the steps. And that's in our Webinar Crusher training, where we show you how to make a 20-minute review product, how to do a 60-minute pitch webinar, you could call it like a mini product launch, a 4-week class, and evergreen traffic. Those 4 things are the things your business needs, and if your day-to-day tasks only focused on those 4 things, that would be the best use of your time as opposed to changing your Twitter background or liking some Facebook posts, right? For a total value so far of $1,988. But I want to give you some time-sensitive bonuses. I want to give you the Webinar Starter Kit, where we give you our plugin for making landing pages, our plugin for placing videos on those landing pages, our best PowerPoint templates, training on how to use PowerPoint, training on how to use webinars, and our 99-point webinar checklist. I want to give you our webinar opt-in plugin that allows you to, first of all, send out a link for a one-click webinar. So someone gets an email from you, they click one link, they're registered, great. And this plugin also allows you to sign people up for a GoToWebinar plus your own list at the same time. And we'll also give you 96 of our best pitch webinars over the years, and we'll include PowerPoint. So a lot of people have kind of seen, oh yeah, when you guys pitched Webinar Crusher or Income Machine or something, can I have that template? Well, sure, here it is. And then not only the template of the design, but what kind of things did you guys say? Let me just grab that and then change up the things that I say in my own offer. Sounds like a good idea, right? So Webinar Crusher contains those 4 modules plus those 3 bonuses for a total value so far of $5,079. But before going any further, I want you to just stop and I want you to think about this for a second, all right? So here's the thing, is we aren't including GoToWebinar with the standalone course itself, but I want you to see how easy it is to make money with webinars, and I want to make this unlike any webinar course you've ever seen, and that's why I will record your webinar for you. That's right. If you said, I have all these reasons why I can't do a webinar, well, if the recording aspect of things is one thing holding you back, well then just forget about that part because I'll record it for you. You give me the name of the webinar that you're about to run, and then you can schedule a date and time with me, and then I'll just give you the webinar link to promote. And I'll start the webinar for you, I'll hand you the controls, and then you just focus on you being yourself and showing your screen, sharing some cool stuff, and I'll record it, I'll produce it for you, all as part of this course. And even better, I'll give you a book. Is it okay if I mail you something for free, a book in the mail? Well, I want to give you a big, thick book. Thick's okay, I guess, right? Of the entire course with, it's a transcript of everything, there's screenshots. A lot of people like to highlight things, underline things, circle things, write notes in the margins. And I also want to give you the DVDs of this packed neatly in a box and sent to your door. That way you can just pop it in the TV, pop it in wherever. It's yours, no waiting for weeks or months. We'll send them out when we see your order of Webinar Crusher, where we show you how to make that review product, the product launch. We show you how to make a class, traffic, webinar starter kit, webinar opt-in plugin, pitch webinar library. I'll host and record your webinar. I'll give you a manual and DVDs. We'll give you challenges after each session, recordings, transcripts, a community, lifetime access for a total value today of $10,658. But there's good news. It's not $10,000. It's not even $1997, even though that's the minimum it will cost for a webinar weekend with us. It's not $997. It's not $797. It's not $497. It's just $397 at webinarcrusher.com. So go right now and check out the 4 modules, the bonuses we have, all that great stuff. And how about this? I'll give you an instant discount for going right now to WEBINARCRUSHER.com, webinarcrusher.com. It's just $297 for all this great stuff. So go right now to webinarcrusher.com. Click the payment button to join and send your complete $297 to Double Agent Marketing LLC and log into the members area within the next few minutes. And you can always refund at any time, no questions asked, within 30 days. Just mail the DVD and book back to us. We'll be glad to do it. Because webinars are a thing that you need to hop on this if you want to stay relevant, if you want to stay with the times, if you want to stay above your competitors. Everyone needs to create their content live, period. So use webinars to create your sales pitch, your product, bonuses, build your list, make joint ventures, either get left behind and be left scratching your head wondering what would have happened if you took some little risks here and there and get left behind, or do something cool, run some webinars, be glad you did, get better and better the more that you do them, do it, and go to webinarcrusher.com. There are 4 components in Webinar Crusher: the training itself, the reference where you can go back and see what you saw, the coaching where we help you out with the checklists and the step-by-step, and the tools such as GoToWebinar included in the monthly version and our Webinar Opt-in plugin. So it's a $10,000 value, no further payments, no to GoToWebinar. Today, $297 at webinarcrusher.com. All right, so you go there and you can join our program at webinarcrusher.com. And here, let me just kind of start over here so that we go together. So what we want you to do is open up your browser, go to webinarcrusher.com, webinarcrusher.com. You go there and it explains what we have for you right here and all the 60-minute product launch, what's in each modules, a bunch of happy people who've taken the course. You go down to the bottom and let me just explain this offer real quick. So there are 2 options. If you say, you know, I don't want GoToWebinar, or I already have it, or I use something else, great, that's fine. Your option here is the $297 single payment version of the course here, which, as you see, does not contain GoToWebinar and does not have the monthly meeting with us. But what we really want you to do is, if you want it all in one place, if you say, you know, just handle it, just get a GoToWebinar account for me in my name, all that fun stuff, then at Webinar Crusher, you want to look at this $97 every 30 days option, where it includes GoToWebinar. We'll meet with you. We've done this for, I think, like 6 or so years. We'll meet with you this month, next month, every month for as long as you want, talking about webinars, talking about our webinars, your webinars, what you need to know, like what's important, what's cutting edge, all that cool stuff. So webinarcrusher.com is the place to go. And I hope that made sense there, where if you don't want GoToWebinar, use the $297 button. If you do want GoToWebinar, use the $97 every 30 days button. And we want to see you in there. We want to see you do it. And here's the thing, is Bruce Lee says, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I do fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. The most dangerous risk of all is spending your life on not doing what you want, on the bet that you can someday buy yourself the freedom to do it later. Do it now instead. If it's important, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. How many times should you try? Well, Steven Spielberg tried a bunch of times. Tim Ferriss tried a bunch of times. Colonel Sanders tried a bunch of times. You've heard all these stories of all these people who tried hundreds or thousands of times, but what you don't hear about all the people who almost made it, right? Think about all the almost Bill Gateses out there, or all the almost Mark Zuckerbergs out there, people who stopped right before they were onto something, right before they hit the gold, right before they took that risk, ran that webinar, made that course, did that pitch, did the tutorial, built the list, made the product, whatever. They stopped right before they were at the gold. And we want to avoid that for you. We want you to run webinars, get great results, and love them, and do it again and again, and then thank us because we were the ones that got you turned on to webinars. So join Webinar Crusher to make your 20-minute review product, 60-minute product launch, 4-week class, Evergreen traffic, the plugin, the pitch webinars, all that great stuff at webinarcrusher.com. So go right now to www.webinarcrusher, webinarcrusher.com, and you'll click the payment button to join. You'll say you'll complete $297 to Double Agent Marketing LLC. You'll log into the members area within the next few minutes and then refund anytime, no questions asked, within 30 days. Just send the DVDs and book back to us if you are unhappy for any reason. The place to go is webinarcrusher.com. If you want just the course, there's the button for that. If you want the monthly ongoing GoToWebinar provided for you, plus we meet with you as a group, then join that $97 every 30 days button. But either way, I look forward to seeing you inside of Webinar Crusher. I can't wait to hear about your success story and hear about the pitch you made, the class you made, the way you build your list, the coaching clients you got, whatever, which was all possible because of webinars. So I'm Robert Plank from webinarcrusher.com. We'll see you in there and have a great day.